Okay, good evening and welcome to the event IB or A-Levels, What is Your Future? I'm Mrs. Porsche and you will also hear from Mr. Porter this evening. We're going to talk about the very distinct offering that we have at our school, but also the 4 distinctive routes that you could choose to follow within our sixth form. It is a very complex offering, if you like. We really believe that it's a good thing to choose the right route for you. So it's really important to do this research and listen to the different options that are available for you so that you can choose, make an informed choice, if you like. Just starting here with our mission statement, it is heavily influenced by the fact that we are an IB World School. We believe that we want students to have a really global outlook. We want them to be resilient, principled and ambitious. And we also believe that other people with their differences can also be right. So that is very much at the heart of our school. You can see obviously our key aims there and the definite influence of our international dimension through the headings there. But we are looking for academic excellence, a respect for their own students' own cultures and the cultures of others, and then also all the skills that students are going to need in order to get to their destinations. And in sixth form, a lot of what we do is absolutely about that. You can see our 5 pillars there. They're intrinsic to the school throughout the whole school. They carry through into sixth form. So all of our sixth formers carry on with citizenship, for example, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. And then our learner profile there at the bottom, which embodies what learners at our school aim to be and what we believe will help learners to be successful in the future. They again are heavily influenced by our position as an IB World School. So as I mentioned a minute ago, everyone in our sixth form does citizenship as well as everyone in our lower school. That is part of our core curriculum. So whichever of our fantastic 4 routes that you choose, you will be taking part in the core curriculum. That involves time with your form tutor every day. It involves that citizenship. We have tutor period, which is similar to those of you who are in years 7 to 11. That happens at the same time as your tutor period, but it's an assembly. And in there we have guest speakers. We maybe spend time actually on Unifrog, not in an assembly. Maybe you have time with your curriculum manager. So it works in a very different way. It's not just with your tutor. We utilise that time to really enhance the curriculum of our sixth formers. CAS, which stands for Creativity, Activity and Service, gives you a chance to lead whole school projects. That really is active citizenship. It's the kind of thing that helps students to really stand out in the future. It helps students to really develop leadership skills, collaborative sort of teamwork skills, to really make our school a better place, to be quite honest. And every single student in our sixth form does that to a degree. I'll talk a bit more about it within the IB diploma and a version of it in the career related programme, but everybody does buy into that if you're coming to our sixth form. We also have academic projects for all, so we encourage students, no matter which route they do, whether it's embedded in the route or something that we sort of add on to the route, we really encourage everyone to undertake academic projects, and that is because of the skills it brings you. It works really well as preparation for university, where you will be working much more in a project style, but also for the world of work. So much of the world of work revolves around projects and being able to plan a project, carry it out, conduct research, etc., and carry something through to fruition. So we're setting you up for a successful future. Our school, as hopefully you know if you've got this far, is very distinctive. We have a wide range of visits and exchanges. We have a lot in the sixth form available as well. That involves work experience, visits to Germany, Italy, Spain, France and China. It also has another offering of residential visits where you could go potentially to Geneva, potentially to Poland and Vienna, potentially Iceland or potentially Singapore. We don't know yet for sure what will be offered in every year because we do vary it a bit sometimes from time to time, but those are the kind of visits that students have been able to undertake in our sixth form, and they continue to prove to be very popular. I mentioned destinations earlier as being intrinsic to our sixth form offering. Mr. Porter actually leads on our destinations mentoring, and you'll be meeting him shortly, but that is really crucial. Ultimately, whichever route you take, we want to help you get to your next destination, and again, the destination that's right for you. That's one of the reasons that making an informed choice now is really important, because you don't want to find that, for example, I had a student a few years ago, she took A-levels, 3 A-levels, she specialised quite a lot. She had a German background, wanted to study in Germany, and found that the option she'd taken at A-level made that harder. Now, A-level route might well have worked well for that had she taken particular subjects. It was maths in that particular instance that she needed. That wouldn't be the same for everyone, but it is worth thinking, actually, what do I need to be studying to get to my next destination, the destinations I'm interested in? You might not know yet, but you certainly will have ideas, and it's worth considering what you love most. Our International Enterprise Academy, so all of our business students are automatically members of our International Enterprise Academy, and that is working with the Peter Jones Foundation. Now, that has been a huge success in our school over the last few years, and we have a student in our current upper sixth who's actually just reached the final of an enterprise competition and has the potential to win money from Peter Jones and the Peter Jones Foundation, and will be going to present to Peter Jones as well. If you don't know him, he's quite well known on BBC television on Dragon's Den, well-known entrepreneur, and certainly it's really added value to a lot of our students over the last few years. I mentioned CAS and creativity, activity and service as a leadership opportunity because you're leading whole school projects, but there are also leadership opportunities within our sixth form and then therefore within the whole school. So there's a chance to be a head student, there's a chance to be a subject prefect or to be a whole school prefect. So there's lots of opportunities there. And our opportunities bulletin, so we share ideas and information with you as we come across them for different events, different supercurricular and extracurricular activities that you could take part in through our opportunities bulletin. I must remember to breathe. Right. I neglected to say at the very beginning, we are recording this session. It should be automatically recording if everything's gone well. You won't be on screen at all. It's only Mr. Reporter and I who would ever be visible. But obviously you do have the right to leave at this point if you're concerned about that. We also have a Q&A open, so if you have a question, please do put it in that Q&A or in the chat. I can actually see both at the moment. Currently nothing there, but if you do have a question, please do type into there. Okay, going to talk about the IB Diploma Programme now. This is one of our very distinctive routes. We are the only school in East London and Essex that offers this for free. There are some private schools that do, but we offer this at no extra charge. It is a fantastic programme. If you take this programme, you will be taking 3 higher level subjects and 3 standard level subjects, so you are taking 6 subjects. However, because 3 are at higher level, they're more in depth, more equivalent, more akin to A level. And then you've got the 3 standard levels. So it's not like doing 6 A levels, definitely not. There's an international focus in all courses, and it says here on the screen that internal assessments make up approximately 20 to 25%. That means coursework, really. So it varies from subject to subject what you'll be doing for that, but coursework will play a role in whatever you choose. That's one of the things that makes it so bespoke. It means that the diploma programme that one student's doing might look quite different to another diploma student, because actually what you're choosing to do, the subjects you take, and then the coursework you choose to do, the research you choose to undertake could be very different. So that might really appeal. Within the 6 subjects, you have to take 1 from each of those blocks that you can see there. And you also then, everybody does another core curriculum. We have theory of knowledge, that's critical thinking, which is all about how we know what we know, and who owns knowledge, is bias inevitable in the production of knowledge, and we have an extended essay. So that is an academic project that I mentioned earlier. That is a chance to write up to 4,000 words, which might sound intimidating right now, but believe me, you'll be able to do it. You choose the topic. So you choose which subject you write about, and you become a bit of an expert in that subject. You have guidance from me and from some other staff, but also from a supervisor. So you have approximately a year to work on that, which is a lot more support than you'll get at university if you write a similar length essay. And so that is one of the reasons that it really sets you up well to be really well prepared for university. Theory of knowledge and the extended essay are 2 of the reasons that this actually is the best route if you want to go to a top 20 university, because you're 3 times more likely to get into a top 20 university, and that's based on some research from 2021. It really suits your all-rounders who don't want to specialise too early. It also suits those who are academically curious. If you love learning, want to find out more, want to make links between your different subjects, theory of knowledge particularly helps you to do that. It helps you with those skills to be able to make those links across your curriculum, and it really helps you to be, as I mentioned before, really, really well prepared. So that's why it's such a good route. You may have spotted by now that we've got a little bit in yellow there saying IB standard level environmental systems and societies has now been added. This has been added to this route, and as well as the 2 other routes, 2 of the other 3. Environmental systems and societies will be offered in the science block. So at our school it's a science subject, but it bridges that gap between science and humanities. It really is looking at how humans influence the world and influence the environment. So therefore it really combines geography and biology primarily. We're very excited to be offering that as a new subject in our offering. It's a well-established subject in the IB. Other schools have reported fantastic things about it. Our teachers are currently being trained and they are very excited to be able to deliver that. That might be a really good example of something where perhaps you were thinking of diploma, but you weren't sure if you wanted to take biology, chemistry or physics, so this might be a good option for you. Or perhaps you actually love the sound of that, but also want to take a science. You could potentially take another science in that science block and then take environmental systems and societies there and take chemistry in the 6th block over there where it says second language science or individuals and societies. So you can choose to sort of maximise your sciences slightly more without necessarily taking 2 of the core 3 that people normally think of. There's some more jargon on this slide, so I just want to explain these because, as I mentioned before, it's a very bespoke route. It's also a very flexible route. It really is something that could suit a very wide range of learners. There should be something for almost everybody here. In languages, if you are a native speaker of another language and you speak it really well, you'd be happy and willing and able to study literature in that language, then the self-taught option could be for you, which is what it means when it says SSST there. There is a cost to that because you have to pay for a tutor, unfortunately, but it's a relatively reasonable cost. The benefit of that is that you can get a bilingual diploma. So if you want to then go and study abroad in that country or go and work in that country and prove that you know that language to the same level as a native, that bilingual diploma will really help you. I've put it under languages, but actually it could also replace the English literature. So we did have a student who did Danish in that way. He replaced the language in the language block where it's sitting there and still did English as well, but didn't learn another language. He effectively had 2 native tongues in there, but he could easily have replaced the English and then done another language as well. So it's a very flexible option. Ab initio is something that you can do here in AIB or in the IB career related programme, and that is where you learn a language from scratch. You learn Spanish or Italian with us. You have to not know that language already, but you learn it to a level better than GCSE in 2 years. It's a fantastic course. It's a very cultural course. It's a very practical course based on real world language. It follows the same model as the higher and standard options, but a really good option if you don't want to carry on with the language you're studying now, or if you're coming from a school where you're not studying a language now. The ab initio option might be a really good one. I should just mention that in mathematics, we do highlight it later, but in mathematics in the IB, there are 2 options. There's the standard and the higher. For the higher, that is the only course where we insist on a 7. You have to get that 7 in order to study that, because it is a bit like doing maths with further maths. So it's a great course for those who really love mathematics. If you don't love mathematics so much, don't be put off the diploma. You can do the standard level course, which is much more functional. It's called Applications and Interpretations, and it really is applied to real world. It is statistics and things like that. So it really helps then boost and support your other subjects. That's the idea of that course. Moving on to the career-related programme route, there's some overlap here, so that environmental systems and societies has been added here as well. There's a core curriculum again. You study personal and professional skills, service learning, and the language portfolio. Service learning is a bit like CAS, which I mentioned earlier, except for the first year of the career-related programme, you do specific tasks, working with in a group, developing your leadership skills to run things like our Year 9 Enterprise Day or our Year 11 World of Work Day. Then in the second year, these students also do CAS and can opt into the other groups with the other sixth formers. The language portfolio is the reason that we do insist that you do a language. You don't have to do the introductory languages it mentions there if you're taking a language in your IB standard subjects or your A-level. But if you choose two A-levels and you're not taking, sorry, two A-levels, two IB standard subjects, and you're not naturally taking a language in those, then we would insist on that introductory language. That is a 2-term course where you learn it across just from sort of September to the following Easter. I've just realised we should have put computer science and PE now added actually under business, because you have to take a career-related study subject for this route, and that is business, computer science or PE. So I'm sorry, the yellow is sort of misaligned there. That should have been under business. The other A-level can be from quite a wide range of choices, and you can go to our website to see exactly what you can choose within each route. The two IB standard subjects, as I say, it now includes environmental systems and societies. That's the first time we've had a science option in the IB part of the IBCP, so that's really fantastic. And then we, just for timetabling reasons really, and then you could also choose that ab initio language that I mentioned earlier. That could sit as an IB standard subject if that appeals to you. I mentioned the service learning and leading the whole school projects already, and that really does develop your wide range of skills. Those personal and professional skills are designed to make it so that you could really go straight into the world of work. You could go to an apprenticeship or you could go straight to university. This last year, 56% of the people who did this route went straight to university, and then the others went to a mixture of degree apprenticeships and apprenticeships. So it was a really successful, it's a really successful route, but for a wider sort of range of pathways, whereas the diploma is very much geared towards sort of university. Of course, some students choose to take gap years and do other things or degree apprenticeships, but it is very much geared towards those top universities. It's this route, the career-related programme, suits those who want to develop those work-ready competencies, but as I say, it very much works for university as well. This year, more than half did choose to go straight to university with this route as well. Now going to hand over to Mr. Porter, who will talk through the A-level route.
Good evening, everyone. So, as my role in sixth form is twofold. I'm the A-level curriculum manager, so I look after, partially academically, all of those students who study 4 A-levels, and I'm also in charge of destinations. So, I look after the UCAS process, help support with apprenticeship applications, and looking for work, whatever young people choose to do after their time in the sixth form. And if we start with the 4 A-level route and what we are trying to do with this, most schools will not ask their students to do 4 A-levels, and we understand why that is, because it is a challenge. We say from the outset that if you're choosing to study 4 A-levels, you're doing it for a good reason. You're doing it because you want to challenge yourself academically and show that you are setting yourself apart from some of your peers. That's why we ask anyone who wants to study 4 of these subjects to the highest level to have an average of 7 in their best 8 GCSE subjects. What this route suits for the most part is students who have got a reasonably narrow focus. So it suits someone who wants to, let's say, apply for medicine, wants to keep on all 3 sciences and maths, or maybe wants to keep on computer science, a couple of sciences. I think particularly students might underestimate the role that chemistry and computer science play together, and maths as well. It allows students to keep that very focused curriculum while still doing 4 subjects that fits within the sort of baccalaureate philosophy that we firmly believe in as a school. And for those most academically able, I think it absolutely can help them have that breadth within those 4 subjects, while still focusing on things that interest them. So I've given sort of scientific examples there for the most part, but obviously you could easily do, for example, history, economics, politics, and English, if you wanted to have that real focus on the more humanities side, improve your essay writing, improve the way that you sort of formulate arguments, and that breadth can often help. It also is particularly helpful for those most academically able because it allows them to be in the most competitive they can be when applying for university. Occasionally in the past, we've seen students make mistakes when they've carried on to sixth form. They picked 3 subjects they love, and one of them they've got to A level, that step up has been really hard, and they've not necessarily hit the heights they wanted to. They've ended up in this sort of awkward situation where they might be getting A's and A stars in 2, and a C in the 3rd one. And that actually, if you're one of those very academic students, could be a bit of a blow, because it does close off those sort of most competitive options post sixth form. Whereas by keeping on those 4 subjects, if one doesn't quite meet the expectations, but if you're taking on new subjects, it gives you that flexibility that you might not have. And even the AIB route, which I'll look at in a second, doesn't necessarily offer, because the IB standard or the EPQ isn't quite equivalent to a full A level, and universities don't treat it necessarily in the same way. This evening used to be sort of dubbed IB versus A level, but I hopefully just in this little description you can see how the 2 routes complement each other. The IB is all about breadth. It's all about showing the well-rounded nature of a student, and for a lot of students that's ideal. But there'll be some, and I can speak from personal experience, I'd love to study the IB in terms of the way I think about the world, but I know that my language skills would have made that incredibly difficult for me. And actually, for some of our students, the IB is not the right route for them, but they are still very academically able. 4 A-levels make sense, and vice versa as well. And I think that the 4 routes we have complement each other, and it's not necessarily about one being better or worse than the other. It's all about how they allow our students to have the flexibility of choice and pick subjects that allow them to flourish. And I've had the pleasure this week of sending off 19 early applications to different universities. Obviously Oxford and Cambridge, but also some veterinary and medical students as well. And we've had students from A-level, AIB and IBDP routes all apply to those very competitive courses and very academic universities. And so you need to pick what suits you as a young person, or as a parent listening, what you try and guide your child to something that you think would suit them, and try and take up your own desires and biases out of the picture as much as you possibly can. So we've talked about the three of our 4 routes. The 4th one is the AIB. Suppose we'll move on to the next slide for me. That'd be great. I don't think I can. This is by far our most popular route. And that's because it doesn't have the same necessary levels of requirements as the 4 A-levels has. You do not need to average a 7, you just need the base level matriculation, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But also it still allows students to do 4 subjects and suits what most people have to understand sixth form learning to look like. So under the AIB, students have to pick 4 subjects. 3 of them are full A-levels, as most schools would offer, and then they get a choice of either an IB standard level subject. So this is often where I think it's a really nice chance to be able to keep something on they wouldn't necessarily otherwise be able to do. So the scientist who wants to do chemistry, maths, physics, but then actually would really like to keep on French as an IB standard. It gives them that sort of palate cleanser in the week. They get something that's a bit different that allows them to still keep that love of learning. Or the ab initio courses are particularly fantastic for that. Or the humanities student who now wants to keep on environmental systems because they want a little bit of science that they really enjoy, and maybe they think actually they might want to pick a course that is a bit more cross-curricular. That gives them the option to do it. And actually, the route that I think for many of our sixth formers is absolutely fantastic, and one that they should give strong consideration to is doing the EPQ as their 4th subject. Now, the EPQ is the extended project qualification. Dr. McDermott, who manages all the AIB students, runs this course. it is a project qualification. They have to pick an essay on anything they like, as wide-ranging as you can imagine. They have about a year and 3 months to do it. They produce somewhere between a 4,000 and 5,000 word essay and a progress log that shows how they've reflected and built on their project as they carry on the course. They can also, if they want to, create an artifact that reduces how much they write that's submitted alongside it. So we've had people look at fashion in the 19th century and create a dress. We had one student look at coding and look at how you might create a library computer system, like a lending system, and they used that as their artifact. Last year, someone produced a car and tested the impact of spoilers on how aerodynamic a car could be. It's really a chance for them to pick a topic they really enjoy. It's not repeating exactly what they're doing in the sixth form, but allows them to expand on it. I think it's particularly useful for those students who maybe have a particular path in mind that A levels don't necessarily match perfectly. So we have lots of students every year who do a law EPQ because they want to show off how interested in law they are before they apply to that university. Or, I'm trying to think of another example, there are others. There's someone who, or they carry on with something they can't necessarily study in sixth form anymore. They love film. They want to create a film as part of their EPQ. It just allows that absolute flexibility, and the world is their oyster as long as they can show the research, they can show the academic rigor, they can study whatever they like to. As I said, most of our students will end up picking this route. Those 3 full A levels and then a qualification in the IB standard or the EPQ that's equivalent to about half an A level. And we've got here on screen just a few quotes from students about why they chose the route for them. And it's hard, what I was saying at the end of the slide on the 4 A levels, that actually it's a different student will fit into a different pathway. There's overlap clearly. You know, the student picking for the AIB may well also be the sort of student who could have picked 4 A levels, but not always. And you need to spend a little bit of time thinking about what will make the right course for you. And they each have their strengths and weaknesses. They each can get you to many different outcomes. Not any single one of them is perfect. And it's really interesting speaking to the students at the end of their time. Most of them, I think, end up making the right choice because we spend quite a lot of time going through it with them and doing events like this. Okay, and I'm going to pass back to Mr. Porsche looking at some statistics for you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Okay, so here are a few statistics for you. As you can see, we are a very diverse community. 77 languages are spoken in the homes of our students, with 57 nationalities. I mean, you can see it there, can't you, in 12 religions. I mean, that is fantastic and very, very distinctive. 80% of our students went to university last year, and 31% secured a place at a Russell Group university, which I think really shows the strength. That's really in line with sort of national averages there. Just to add to back up what I was saying about being really geared to the universities, the IB diploma students last year, 56% of them secured a place at a Russell Group university, and 91% of them went to university. There were only a couple that have taken gap years for a couple of different reasons, and actually they're applying for university now. So by this time next year, from that cohort, it will be 100%. I already mentioned that we're the only non-fee paying school in Essex and East London that offers the IB courses. And it is also really worth noting that our IB diploma programme average was this year 35 out of 45 points. It's often 34, so this was a bit of a bumper year. But the world average was 30 out of 45. Now, to put that in context, 35 points on the diploma is equivalent in UCAS sort of equivalency to A star, A star, A at A level. So the average, the mean of our diploma student scores last year was equivalent to A star, A star, A, which I think shows what a wide variety of students it can really suit, because you know, that we're not a selective school, we're not a grammar school, it's not some sort of AMA stream. We had a very wide range of abilities in there, but they were able to achieve that as their average. 28 out of the 45 points is equivalent to an A and 2 Bs. So it really, I think, shows that wide range. Someone has commented in the Q&A about points, and I have answered there, but just in case you want me to say it, and actually it might be useful for others, it is scored out of 7 per subject. So the highest grade you can get in a subject in the IB, whether you're doing it as a single subject with AIB, as one of your 2 in the career-related programme, or in the IB diploma, is 7. So in the IB career-related programme, for example, in order to get the career-related programme, you have to get at least a 3 in both of your standard subjects, as well as passing that core. And then, of course, you need to pass your A-levels as well. And then in the diploma, you need to get at least 24 points to pass, and you've got up to 45 there. You may have noticed that if you do 6 subjects and they're worth 7 points, that only adds up to 42, but there's up to 3 points available from extended essay and theory of knowledge as well. Those are graded A through E, and then it's sort of worked out into points in a matrix up to 3 points. So to get the maximum 45, you get 7s in every subject, and then you get those 3. Most universities make much more generous offers than that. We actually had an offer today for 28 points for a student, and also offering at times offering financial support at that kind of level as well. We've had many universities, including Oxford, for example, last year offered 38 points, but they wanted 6s in the higher subjects. So sometimes there's a caveat on those higher subjects. So I think really want to back up what Mr. Porter was saying. Choose things you love, choose things you're really interested in, definitely. And really, when it comes to diploma, consider which ones your hires are. If you're doing AIB, for example, consider which 3 to have as your A-levels and which one you want as your IB subject, because you really want to be able to be sure that you are putting your best foot forward no matter which option you take, and choosing what suits you as well. And relatively recently, Ofsted cast us as an outstanding sixth form. We've been an outstanding sixth form for a long time now, and we were very pleased to be able to maintain that last year. Okay, matriculation. So this is important, very important. This information is also on our website. You can go to our website, navigate to sixth form, then admissions 2025 to see all of the matriculation details there. You'll also see full lists of the subjects on offer there. My colleague has actually just pointed out that unfortunately we're not offering an intro in all of those subjects anymore that were on a slide earlier. That was an error from before. So go to the website to see for sure which intro courses are being offered and which ab initio, etc. For ab initio, I know it's Spanish and Italian. To get into our sixth form, you have to have a 5 in English, Lit or Lang. So you don't have to have it in both, but in one of them, and in maths. And then you have to meet subject-specific criteria. For anyone who is a younger sibling or a parent of a former student at our school, that is a bit of a change, but you have to meet the subject-specific criteria. Some of these might have changed as well. So you have to have a minimum grade of 6 if you want to study a subject at a higher level, or 5 at standard level. If in A-levels, you have to have a 6 for A-level as well. For the 4 A-level route, you have to have an average point score of 7 over your best 8 subjects. Now, studying A-level or higher level mathematics is a little bit different as well. We do want a 7 for higher level mathematics, which I did mention earlier. And for that, we do need that 7. For A-level mathematics, we'll talk in a moment about a bridging day, which may be an option if you get a 6, but it would depend on the performance in that bridging day as well. And then again, in the career-related route, you need a minimum grade 6. It says 6/5. That's because if you take business, we do allow you to take that with a 5, but you have to have a 6 for most A-levels. Again, on the website, if you go to sixth form, admissions 2025, you can download the relevant documents for this year. You can see the matriculation for all the subjects you're thinking of taking, and you can also double check which subjects are offered in each route, because you do want to look at, for example, If you're particularly interested in sociology, that would fall into the A-level, 4 A-level route. It would be there as an A-level for the IBCP, and of course for the AIB, but it wouldn't be in the IB diploma. So have a look at what's offered at which level. For German and French, we offer them at higher and standard level. For Spanish, we offer them at higher standard and ab initio. So it does vary a bit even within each department as well. And then, as we mentioned, well, I've just mentioned just now again, a choice of languages, but it will vary depending on which language you want to do and which level, and therefore what you need to have done already. The application process, the application forms are already available online. They close on the 15th of December. You can book morning tours. We still have 4 remaining on the 22nd of October, the 5th of November, the 26th of November and the 10th of December. And we also will invite you, if you apply and you don't go to our school currently, we will invite you for an advisory meeting between October and January. So we've already started those. We are already conducting those meetings for people who've already applied. I must say, I'd actually like to just say at this particular point, you can apply and choose one of the 4 routes. When you apply, you will have to choose and select some subjects, but at those advisory meetings or in the course counselling, if you're in our current year 11 in January and February, we will talk to you about the options, and we may well say to you, have you considered, because we might look at your grades and say, have you considered this route if you haven't applied for it. We might also, well, we'll just invite you to suggest it if you do want to apply for one route but ask about another at that advisory meeting. That won't be a problem at all. We're very happy to talk about all of the options for you and try and help you to find the best one. For Year 11 Parents' Evening, that's on the 7th of November for our school. Of course, that might vary if you're in another Year 11, but that would be a good opportunity to talk to your teachers about the different routes, or more specifically, actually, what their subject is like within the IB, within A-levels. I already briefly mentioned, but our course counselling for our own Year 11s are similar to those advisory meetings, happens between January and February. It's only done by experienced counsellors in school, and we discuss options based on the reports and GCSE mocks. We actually do that for all of our Year 11s, even if they're not applying to our school. But of course, if you're applying to our school, we'll also be able to talk about the best routes for you. And then lower 6th induction, and must just add, I really encourage as many as possible to apply. The lower 6th induction days, they will take place. So if you have an offer after your course counselling or your advisory meeting, then you will be invited to our induction days on the 30th of June and the 1st of July even. So please do save those dates. It's a really good opportunity to meet new friends. Sometimes people make friends on those days and they are friends for the whole time they're here and years beyond as well. You'll meet your form tutor, you'll get guidance regarding skills, etc. You'll also have taster lessons in your different subjects, which are really invaluable. I briefly mentioned a bridging day for mathematics earlier, but here's a bit more information because it's also relevant to computer science. So on the 2nd of July, we have a bridging day for both mathematics and computer science. For mathematics, that's for students who are predicted a 6, who are hoping to get that 7 in order to study A-level mathematics, and want to show their skills and show that they have the problem solving and algebraic sort of ability in order to do well at A-level mathematics. There's also a computer science bridging day for students who are not currently studying computer science. So if you're studying computer science and you get a 6, or you're predicted as it's excellent, you can do computer science. But if you're not studying it at GCSE and you're interested in it, you can come to that computer science bridging day. So it's really sort of an aptitude kind of day, so we can see if you're well suited to A-level computer science. I don't know if Mr. Porter wants to come on screen and add anything at this point as well.
Sorry, just trying to answer some questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Nothing in particular, I don't think. Just some questions that were in the chat. Recording is going on. Cover the bridging day for computer science. Yep. The other one, people are asking about our students who've done Mandarin low down the school. So IB Standard Mandarin would be the option, and obviously you can study that as AIB. part of the IB diploma and the IBCP. Obviously, that's depending on what route is right for your child or for you as a student, if you're listening. I don't think I've got much to say other than the course counselling meetings should be a real opportunity to have an honest conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be difficult, I think, for students when it should be a neutral chance for them to be able to give their opinions, and we're not trying to force them into one route or another. That's not our purpose at all.
Not at all.
And we're not recruiting for our sixth form either, to be perfectly honest. We need to find what is the right option for them, and we're going into forum groups over the last few weeks or so and saying very much the same thing, that we are here to help and support them get to the right place, and we'll do the same thing if they stay with sixth form, post sixth form. At the end of the day, what's right for them is much more important than numbers on a spreadsheet, and the last thing we want them is to come here and do the wrong courses. So does the more professional route, the IBCP, only able to... Yes, and I would say that's true about the IBCP. If you do the IBCP, you are looking at universities that are more points-based than they are grades-based. That's the nature of the course. I would say that they tend to get very good options within that sphere of universities. So yes, it does limit you in terms of the Russell Group universities won't necessarily be interested in the qualifications, but in the tier below that, they tend to get quite a lot of points based on the breadth of the course, and it does prepare them really well for that. And again, obviously that does lead to us having a bit of a battle about, well, that's for people who are less academic, and that's not necessarily the point. That it allows, it's about picking the right choices for you. And if you're someone who might go to university, but is primarily perhaps looking to do an apprenticeship or go into the world of work, well, then a course that allows those skills to be developed is much more useful to you than anything else. Now, I understand, I'm going to sit here and say that, okay, each year some people end up on that course because that's their best or their only option. Well, of course, that does happen. That's the reality of the situation. But that's not why we have it as an option. We have it as an option because actually Mr. Knights, who we're giving the night off for once, would talk your ear off about how actually Ms. Pickard, if she was here, about how much it benefits the students and how they come out of it looking like very different young people to how they started. And I find this sort of, but again, you've got to make the right choice for you. If you want to apply for Oxford or Cambridge, do not do the IBCP. Yeah. But that's not saying anything negative about the IBCP.
Not at all. I think I've really seen the confidence of some of those students absolutely soar from arranging those events. So I didn't mention the careers convention, which is where we bring in employers and they talk to people in different year groups and things. And that's one where, you're not only working to help lead an event that's internal with our own students, but you're working with employers as well. So that is a brilliant opportunity to even make some connections and things like that. And definitely seeing students do that, I've seen some relatively shy students really come out of their shell, helping to organise that. I mean, obviously, I very much, I look after the IB diploma students day to day, but I actually oversee all the IB. So AIB, to a certain extent with the IB part, the careers related programme in conjunction with Ms. Pickard, and of course the diploma programme as well. So it really, I think each route has very specific benefits, and of course different workloads, they do vary, so it is worth just sort of thinking actually what is right for me. I think you need to really think about what kind of learner you are as well, because I think it's really important to consider actually what do I want from this, because for example they're actually quite difficult. It's a bit hard sometimes to compare the IB with A levels. The IB, if you take one of the full programmes, either the career related programme or the diploma programme, are designed to be greater than the sum of their parts. So they're more than a qualification, they're giving you an educational experience as well. Now we, as a sixth form, because we believe in that, have also incorporated our core curriculum to have that as an added value with the AIB students and the A-level students, but that is fundamentally built into those two IB programmes, and that does make them quite different to school, or us very different to schools that just offer the A-levels on their own. So any of these routes can get you good destinations. We have excellent destinations outcomes for our students, and even when we talk about the percentage of Russell Group, well, quite a lot of that percentage of students that didn't go to Russell Group didn't necessarily want to. You know, it's got to be right for you. And I think, Mr. Porter, you definitely put it really, really well when you were talking earlier. There are a couple of things in the chat. Yes, the session has been automatically recording, so we'll be able to share that. Hopefully, I believe it will be going on the website tomorrow. I see it actually started recording when we were sort of testing things out beforehand, so we will need to edit the start to make it just the bit that we've broadcast.
I just want to, there's a question about apprenticeships.
Yes.
We absolutely advise students on apprenticeships. What we do at the end of the lower sixth, we assign each of our students a destinations mentor who will help with the application process. What I won't, there is a challenge with apprenticeships, not so much that they're difficult to apply for, but they're less regular than applying for university. Applying for university is a one-stop shop through UCAS, and it's very straightforward. Applying for apprenticeships requires a bit more organisation. That's where the mentors come in and they help keep the student on track. Ms. Picardy's kind of at the moment is very much our sort of go-to person on that, and that fits obviously with the IBCP and the role she plays within our sixth form. With apprenticeships, it's very much about being organised. The government website has lots of options available to them. We offer mock interviews here, and obviously you've got to choose between the sort of degree apprenticeships, the more academic end of it, and the straight sort of more traditional apprenticeships. And even within them, there's a huge range of them. I think there's a bit more challenge on the student themselves to apply, and I don't think there's any real way around that. I know UCAS are looking at trying to bring all of that in-house and make life easier for the students, but that's nowhere near to being a reality at this stage, and government funding means I don't see that happening anytime in the near future, as hard as they try. But no, we absolutely support students to apply for apprenticeships, and my view is that there's no stigma or anything. You pick the option that makes sense for you. We used to call them UCAS mentors, and I deliberately push them through destinations because actually there's lots of different routes and outcomes, and university is merely one of them.
Yeah. I think we'll just keep double checking. We're looking at the chat. We're going to keep responding, but I've just put up the feedback form there so that if anyone feels they have got the information they want, they could, hopefully it'd be great if you could fill in that feedback form. We've not asked for your name or any personal information. It is anonymous, but if you do ever want any further information, please go to admissions@aesessex.co.uk. We'll stay on here for a little bit. I think there's a question I definitely want to answer, but I just wanted to pop that on the screen for anyone who does need to go.
There's a long-term exchange question. We make sure they have course counselling around the long-term exchange. They will not miss out on that.
Sorry, yes, absolutely. Yeah, don't worry. We will make sure that you get your course counselling. And I think there was one about coursework in the IB. No, the IB is not only coursework. Each subject has approximately 20 to 25% coursework. It is a fundamental part of it because they believe in that sort of broad-rounded education. So they want more than just exams. But it is still, there still are exams, certainly. The exams actually for the IB diploma take place a bit earlier than the other exams. This year they were finished around the 17th of May, and then you actually get your results earlier as a result as well. So you get your IB results on the 6th of July rather than waiting till A-level results day towards the end of August. And also after those exams are finished in May, you have a very long summer after the IB. If you only do IB, if you do IB career-related programme or AIB, it has the benefit that it spreads your exams out a bit more. So that can also be a plus because you start to sort of tick certain subjects off.
We've got a question about more lessons in the IB than A-level. Yes, there are more lessons for the IB, you're doing more subjects. And I think that's one of the trade-offs. Our IB students will often say to me, oh, yeah, our work's harder. And they're sort of right and wrong at the same time. Mm-hmm. The expectation of an A-level student outside the classroom is much more significant than an IB student because we know they have more hours available to them. The IB students will have more hours in lessons, but there'll be less expectation outside of the classroom. Yeah. I think also it's reflected in the qualifications at the end. The IB exams, I can speak for the subjects I teach, are not easy is the wrong word, but sometimes that's what gets heard. They're more forgiving, the IB exams, than the A-level exams, particularly in the humanities. I think science teachers might disagree ever so slightly, but I think there's still slight differences there as well. So day to day, the average IB student may find they're busier, but that might be because the A-level student isn't pushing themselves as much as they should be.
We definitely have some examples of that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I do also think that ultimately actually being organised is most useful for the IB. One of our currently very successful upper sixth students at Open Evening surprised me when she was saying to a parent that she hadn't been organised or good at time management before the IB diploma, and then it had sort of made her do it because it meant that she had to manage those 6 different subjects. From what we've seen here, she was new to our school. I would never have believed that she hadn't always been brilliant at time management, but that shows it can be something that it helps you learn.
I think I mean, they're coming from having full days,
Yeah.
and they start to complain about, well, we've got some busy days. Well, you've low down the school, you've got full days all the time, and actually, sometimes that transition is made easier by the fact they go from full days to slightly less full days rather than full days to, oh, this day looks quite empty. I don't know what to do with my time, and that is a tough transition for a lot of our young people, because at 16, I think all of us know that given a chance to do a little bit of extra work or potentially go home early and slack off, one could be very tempting, is all I will say.
Definitely. Then just to also add though about lessons in IB and A level, we did also have a query in advance. The teaching hours do vary depending on the subject and the qualifications. So most A levels are taught with 8 hours every fortnight. The IB higher subjects are mostly 7 hours every fortnight, with the exception of the higher sciences. If you take a higher science, you will be doing 8 hours of that a fortnight. So our students with our biggest timetables do 2 higher sciences, and I believe maths is also 8 hours a fortnight. So that would create your biggest sort of timetable, if you like. And then the standard subjects are typically 5 or 4 hours depending on the subject. So for example, in humanities, they split it for higher, you have 7, but you do 3 hours of higher, and then the standard students join you for 4. In languages, we do 7 hours as well for higher, but the standard students are there for 5. So it does vary a little bit from subject to subject. But I would say really focus on what kind of learner you are, what kind of things you want to get out of your sixth form experience, and what subjects you really enjoy and you will be motivated to do. I think motivation is really key here. Which of these routes, which of these subjects will you be motivated to do well in? Because it's all very well us saying, for A-level students, you need to do a lot of work outside class. If you're then finding those subjects hard or not enjoying them, that will be a lot harder. So really try and consider that.
So you've got to pick up business studies. Yeah. So it's a complicated question with business studies. It's not necessarily so it is not an easier subject, would be my argument. I can't lie and say there aren't some particularly slightly old-fashioned universities that don't still have that hangover from previously. There's actually quite a lot of maths and business in a way there wasn't when I was at school, or even more recently to that, pre sort of reforms. It's there partly because of the students who want to do the IBCP, and it gives them the career-related route, and we want to make sure that's accessible as possible for the right sort of students. I think if we didn't offer the IBCP, it may well be that we required a grade 6 for business studies, to be perfectly honest. Mm-hmm. The only thing I will say is I would not recommend anyone doing business studies with economics if they're doing the AIB. I think that can often be seen as too much of the same sort of subjects, and universities will look a little bit down upon that. If someone really wants to do economics, let's say at university, they're far better, or even if they want to do management, really, they're far better off picking one of them in maths rather than both of them, and then picking another essay writing subject or a science, particularly at the very top end. Someone like LSE would look at someone doing, let's say, history, economics, and maths much more favourably than someone doing business studies, economics, and another subject of any description, really. Because
of that overlap, absolutely. Yeah. I think, as you say, it's almost historic because we've offered it as part of the career-related programme. We used to have a couple of other A-levels that we also offered at that level. We've now changed those to being PE and computer science, and actually just based on the nature of the courses, we felt it was appropriate to keep those still at a 6, but we do obviously have that bridging day with the computer science as well. I think it's something that is almost historic with us, that it's a 5 for business, but students go on to do very well at it. And as Sir says, it's not necessarily an easier course, but definitely be careful whether you match it with economics or not. I would just also add that I think it's worth, I know I keep saying look at the website, but there's also subject guidance for each subject, and you have a sort of summary of what's included in each subject. Mrs. Smith has pointed us to that in the chat, and I do think that's really worth looking at, because Some of the courses are really a bit like apples and oranges. You know, they really are quite different. So for languages, for example, if you take an A-level language, I'm a linguist, if you take A-level language, then you study literature and a film, and you write essays about those for the exam, and translation features quite heavily because it's an exam geared to the UK sort of market, and you do coursework effectively. You do a research project for your speaking exam on a topic completely of your choice. It's a wonderful project that leads to a really interesting speaking exam for me, certainly as an examiner, speaking to the students. The IB languages are more for sort of communication for real world purpose. You won't be writing essays about literature. If you take higher, you do literature. You don't do a film, but you do literature. But you then speak about that in the oral exam if you do higher. But in standard, there's no literature at all. Standard and ab initio have the same, all three actually have the same 5 themes. And standard and ab initio, you describe a picture and link it to the culture in the oral, and then answer questions on those themes as well. So there's a really heavy sort of link to culture in that course, and I would say it's a very different course. They are very different, so it's worth looking at those subject summaries and actually going, which one appeals to me more? Which one would I want to study? We are nearly drawing to the end.
We've got a question about a typical day. So it will. They'll look pretty similar for most of our sixth formers. They will start the morning with morning registration. We ask them to be here at 8:30 for sort of a 5 to 9 start. Most of the time, you'll find they'll come and mill around the sixth form area, they'll grab a cup of coffee, catch up with their friends, and head towards the tutor period in the morning. They'll have 15 minutes with their form tutors where they get notices. We'll check in with things like UCAS, anything that's the sort of most important thing of the day. They'll then have anywhere between a 5 and 1 period day, depending on how many subjects they have that day. It can look very different. In the morning, the first 3 hours, if they're not in lessons, they're expected to be in one of our study spaces, whether it be the common room, the study library, which is silent, and then the quiet space in E11 and E10. And then they have 4 and 5. They'll have one of their periods will be their lunch. They can take that on school site or off school site, that they can't bring hot food back onto the school site. And then for the rest of the day, if they have no more lessons, they're able to sign out and go home. So that is a privilege that can be removed for students who we don't feel are making the best of their time. If they've got a lesson period 6, they then have to spend the rest of the day in school, studying, preparing, and going to that lesson period 6, or if they've got things after school. Once a week, once every 2 weeks, they have citizenship. Once every 2 weeks, they'll have a tutor period, which will be an assembly most of the time. IB students will obviously have slightly fuller days most of the time. 4 A-level students will have a slightly fuller day than AIB students, and the the EPQ students tend to have the lightest days because they get the fewest lessons in total, and that can be a blessing and a curse, as I've sort of touched on before. Our study spaces are manned with people most of the time. The study library has books for them to use. We've got lots of resources online. Cognitive, the IB that we're testing out at the moment. We've got the school librarian has things to provide. There's plenty of things to be doing during the day, and obviously that's part of being a sixth former and their learning. There'll be some clubs and things after school as well, and in the mornings, I suppose, there'll be some doing music and mentoring and other things. So the days will be quite varied, but the fundamental outline looks pretty similar. Someone's asking about whether they can retrieve this later. Yes, it's being recorded, and I'm going to put an edited version online tomorrow morning. Hopefully, the start needs to be a little bit tweaked. Any other questions?
Yes, there's one question about SSST, which is the self-taught option for native speakers. It is quite specific to people who are native speakers of another language. So I will very briefly summarise again, but do email admissions@aesessex.co.uk for more information after this if you need it, or you want to have an individual chat with me on the phone or something. This is a brilliant option for people who are a native speaker of another language to a very good level. So effectively, it's like doing English in that subject. You study literature, it's literature only, and it's literature standard level only, but you study it in that language. You have to have an online tutor who you source, but I have websites with lots of guidance and suggested tutors, and there's a website that you can go to and actually pay them to be your tutor. They are very practiced in delivering this. I coordinate in school. If you take that, within the diploma, then you don't take one of the other language options. So you could replace it English with it, or you could replace your second language with it, or you could even do English, your native tongue, say Danish, and then also do an ab initio or another language as well. So you could end up with 3 languages there. You could, but it gives you the bilingual diploma, which is why it's a very good option if you want to prove that sort of native level. Another option though is to take the diploma, not take your native tongue there, but do an alternative qualification to prove that level. So for example, for German, we have the Goethe Institute exams. For French, we have DELF. And for Spanish, there's the DELE, and I think most countries probably have an alternative that you could do. So that is also another option. So there's lots of different options if you're a native speaker. One thing is that we do have to be careful that you're being stretched academically in your native tongue. So IB standard, for example, if you're very fluent, would certainly not be appropriate. IB higher, it will depend how fluent you are. Might be challenging enough, it might not be, and we will, unfortunately, we can't let you take it if you're too fluent. So it really is a very individual conversation, which I'm happy to have another time for individuals. But I'm really glad that you've asked about it and that it's been mentioned. And one of our Year 11s was quizzing me on it this morning as well. So it's great that that it's there as an option. You can also actually, I think you can take it as a standalone. We've never had anyone take it outside the diploma. We'd have to just double check with the IB that you could do it as your standard subject within AIB, for example. I'm not 100% sure on that because we've never needed to ask. Okay, I think that's it. We're actually just 1 minute over. If we spot anything else in the chat that we haven't answered, I really apologise. I think we've covered everything. But do email admissions@aesessex.co.uk and please do give some feedback. I'm just wondering if we can type that into the chat, not easily unfortunately, but this video, as we've mentioned, will be on the website tomorrow. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Porter. I think you made some excellent points there, and I hope that everyone else agrees and found it a useful evening. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yes.